NTA Kaduna, your star station.
Good day, viewers. My name is Father Stephen Ojapa, MSP, a priest of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto and a member of Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace. IDFP, as an NGO, is running a campaign against hate speech for the next 13 weeks. We are going to be consulting and talking to a wide range of Nigerians on the effect and the need to eradicate hate speech as much as we can in our society. Along with me in this presentation is my uncle, Muhammad Jamil Muhammad. You are most welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we will be on this episode. We shall be looking at hate speech and physically disabled. How do people get to attribute hate speeches or hate actions to these persons? And to do justice to this discussion, we have two discussants who are very much involved in this area. We have Malam Rilwan Muhammad, the National President, National Association of Persons Living with Disability. You're welcome, Malam Rilwan.
Thank you very much.
I also have Mr. Yusuf Zakina, an instructor and interpreter with All Nations Christian Assembly in Kaduna. Mr. Yusuf, you are welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
What does it feel like to be physically challenged?
Well, actually, if you say physically challenged, you are only limiting it to a category, one category of disability. Preferably, to make it balanced, we say persons with disability. When you say person with disability, it entails all the category of disability. Okay. That is the visually, the physically challenged, hearing impaired, and other clusters of disability. Okay. It's just a deformity that stops someone from maybe participating actively in one way or the other. Okay. What refer to a physically challenged I mean may not be that of the blind or that of hearing impaired. So I think it differ. The challenge even differ. That is actually what makes us to become persons with disability. In fact, the name person with disability is more acceptable in our community than some say person with special need, some say physically challenged, some say disabled. I think preferably and globally is acceptable as persons with disability.
Okay.
Yes.
So what does it feel like? Is it something that makes you happy? Are you comfortable? Are you sad? Are you regretting? Are you joyful?
Well, you might be comfortable in another area, you may be sad in another area. Okay. Because by the way, for instance, in our country, there is no existing law protecting the interests of persons with disability. That is a very hectic issue. It makes virtually all persons with disability become very sad. Okay. Because there's no provision, there's no policy on ground to take issues of persons with disability. Take for instance, this issue of accessibility. It is a very hectic for somebody like me. If you talk of maybe interacting, it affects in communication. Sorry, it affects person with hearing impaired. So all these are issues that once you don't find a conducive atmosphere, you become very sad. But if you meet the right people, or if you go outside the country where all these provisions are there, you don't feel like somebody who have one disability or the other. That is why in Nigeria, for instance, In fact, virtually 25 or 27 million Nigerians are very sad, are not happy with their situation because the government, there's no policy, there's no provision.
You mean we have this number of
Definitely,
people who are physically
it increased on daily basis.
Really?
Due to so many reasons.
Wow.
It increased.
Okay.
It increased.
Oh.
So because there's no law on ground. So in fact, all these numbers I earlier mentioned are not happy, are very sad about it. But once there's a law, you don't, because you cannot deny what God have already destined on you.
Yeah.
In fact, virtually, persons with disability accept their condition.
Okay.
But because there's no an enabling environment, it makes them become sad that it's like they're even second-class citizens of their own country. There are so many things that we don't enjoy as citizens of this country.
Oh, sorry. So what would you consider as hate speech towards those with physical disabilities?
You see, to my really understanding, even discriminating against persons with disability is hate speech. There are names. If you call me disabled, it's an hate speech.
Wow.
If you take, for instance, it's more applicable in northern Nigeria. Somebody might know you by name, but just calling you with a disability. I think Gurugu, Makahu, Kuturu, all these things. I think this is a very good hate speech that we have been fighting about it. So I don't think there's any hate speech that person with disability disregard as mentioning your disability,
wow,
where your father or your family have given you your name as any other
they will
person.
remove your name
They
and
will
be calling
aside
you
as Gurugu, Makaho. So this is a very great hate speech to
Oh
person
my
with
God.
disability.
All right, Mr. Yusuf, please, what has been the common complaints around people with that are physically challenged, people living with disability, on those who are physically okay, so to say?
Those who think they are physically okay.
Yeah, those who, that's what I say, so to say, those who are physically okay, so to say, that is always a mark of, that has always created a mark of difference between the disabled and the so-called non-disabled.
I think the problem is that of being carried along. Oftentimes, in quote, those who see themselves as normal, they see persons with disability as lesser human beings. And just like my colleague has rightly said, parents give their children names. But when you come to a place and because of your disability, people leave out your name and call you by that disability, like Makaho, Kuruma, Gurgu, just as he rightly mentioned, it can be painful. And most of the times you find that laws are being made, but they are not followed through.
Do we actually have a law on that?
Well, recently they've been battling for quite some time now to pass this Persons with Disability bill, but it has been a back and forth issue between the legislature and the government. We are just hoping that once this law comes into place, people will begin to see the light and begin to be aware, and there will be enlightenment programs to let people know some of these challenges that persons with disability go through. The enlightenment is not there. The awareness programs are very, very few. Oftentimes people take advantages of persons with disability only to milk them. They organize programs, yes, but these programs are not for the benefit of persons with disabilities. They are for the benefit of those organizing these programs. Because at the end of the day, whatever is realized comes to them. Those, in quote, are called normal. And the persons of disability, maybe they just give them peanuts during the programs, and after that program, it is all forgotten and it becomes history.
Thank you. Malari one, is there a way that people who are living with disability can be abused without verbalizing that, making statements to them? I mean, can there be hate actions towards people who are living with disability?
So it's a normal practice. When you maybe happen to visit someone in his office, the way he receives you, I think it's an abuse. Somebody will just look down on you, not just because of anything. Maybe you are okay by your education and even appearance, but just because you have one disability or the other.
Has it happened to you before?
On several occasions. This is not new thing. On several occasions.
Give us one example.
Without specifically
Without
mentioning
your
where it
just
happened.
Okay, I came across someone in his office trying to get one or two things. So when I, in fact, even from the entrance, from the gate, the security men refused me going in, just because.
For security issues, not because.
No, it's not for security issues. People have been going in. I think.
And when they saw you,
when they saw me, there's no stop. When are you going? Yeah, it has happened even mostly in the banks.
Maybe
mostly in the banks.
Their thought is because people who are disabled are found with one thing of begging around. Maybe their thought was you're only going there to beg for peanuts. So they wanted to stop you.
It's more common in the north, but if you happen to find yourself outside northern Nigeria, it's not like that. Everybody is given equal opportunity. But we really need to understand that not all persons with disability are beggars. If you are talking of begging issue, the begging issue has even been hijacked by the so-called able. Yes, it has been hijacked. Out of 100% beggars now, I think it's only 30 to 40%.
That are disabled.
Disabled that are begging. Sorry, person with disability, because this is hate speech. you understand me? So, in fact, it's a normal practice. If you go to public places, in fact, once you introduce yourself, I think if you have reasonable one, they may reason with you. But some will say, no, we don't allow people like you to be here.
Wow.
It has happened on several occasions.
I have a question.
There are so many actions that people carry out against persons with disability, not until you verbalize it. Take, for instance, those with hearing impairment. You know, most of the communication you do with them is either through gestures, facial expressions, body language. And your body language speaks volumes. Sometimes you see a deaf person or person with hearing impairment coming, and you carry a leaf and place in your mouth and seal. It's an insult. Meaning he cannot talk.
Wow.
That is what it means. And the sound sometimes they make, because they cannot hear themselves. They've lost their speech. And so they make funny sounds. And people copy these sounds and imitate these sounds. It can be annoying. It can be frustrating. Sometimes you go to the clinics, even if you are the one that comes first, but because of your disability, you are left unattended to because you cannot communicate. So these are some of the actions that you see people carry out against persons with disability.
Yeah, you've been an instructor with this group of people. What has been your experience really instructing them? How did you get to learn the language? How did you happen to fall in love with working with them? What has been your personal kind of encounter?
I met a deaf friend. He is now in US, while I was in school in Kaduna Polytechnic. That is how we came to know each other, and I pick interest in learning sign language to be able to communicate with him, because oftentimes I'll see him on his own. I find it difficult to interact with people because most people don't understand sign language, and as a result of that, he cannot be going back and forth writing. It takes a lot of time for you to write back and forth. So I decided to learn sign language, to come close to him, to learn, and he taught me sign language, and from there we were able to communicate and we became friends. And ever since then, it has been my passion to work with persons with disability. As a matter of fact, I'm married to a deaf lady.
Yes.
Really?
My wife is deaf and a graduate from the University of Jos.
Yes.
Wow.
So the sky is not the limit for them.
Wow.
People were asking me, why did you marry a deaf person to start with? There's nothing wrong with the person. It's only the person cannot hear.
So you're encouraging us now to marry deaf, intermarry between...
To me, once the love is there.
And that means we have to go and learn sign language.
Not necessarily learn sign language before you get married. When you marry, definitely you will learn to communicate something.
Right, I have a question, Mr. Yusuf. There's always, even on this discussion, we see that when you say disabled, say that's hate speech. When you say people living with differently able, say it's hate speech. What is the internationally acceptable way of addressing this set of persons? So at least when you're saying it, you know you are not committing any hate speech to any one of them. Do you say physically challenged? Do you say people living with disability? Do you say differently able? Do you say physically challenged? Which one? Which is acceptable?
How bad shall we call it?
The acceptable language globally is person with disability. Because if you say person with disability, it takes all category of disability. When you say physically challenged, it's only referring to somebody like me. The visually, hearing impaired, mentally retarded are excluded. And we really want to carry everybody along. So the most acceptable language globally is persons with disability.
But if I know you as my friend, I want to just joke with you and I just call you Gurugu as a friend. Is it okay?
No, there is no problem about that.
Okay.
It is a joke. Even if you meet us within the community, if you see how a blind man with a physically challenged, even hearing impaired, we do joke.
Okay.
But we don't want it outside that.
Okay, so I shouldn't joke with you outside your circle.
Exactly.
So I shouldn't come to the television now and
say, Malam Gurugu, Malam Macau, exactly.
Now, how can the entire society contribute to a hate speech free society for the people with disability? Malam Yusuf, Mr. Yusuf.
I think awareness is key. Information is key. Workshops, seminars. Once you organize these things, you bring people together and get these persons with disability come and say how they feel and what their challenges are. I think education is key. Once you are educated and you interact with them more, you get to understand what it takes to be a person with disability, and you'll be able to relate with them more freely. And as he said, enabling laws, institutions.
We know how laws work in Nigeria. There are so many laws that we have that are not effective. What if you make a law? What is it going to? How much of impact will the laws they make?
Well, that is what I said initially. Laws are being made, but they are not being followed up. When people don't obey these laws, nothing is done.
So shall we still be talking
Punitive
about
measures are not taken against those who fail to obey these laws that are being put in place by the government. And that is why you find that it's not working most of the time.
So shall we put our energy towards making a law against hate speech towards the physically challenged, or how do I say? Persons with disability. Shall our energy go towards that, or something differently that Nigerians should be able to do?
The laws should be in place to start with.
Okay.
And after putting these laws in place, then the enlightenment programs, campaigns.
How about having somebody in the National Assembly physically challenged? How about
who is a person of disability?
How about having somebody as a governor? How about having somebody as I mean, I don't know.
It is stated that there's ability in disability.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the opportunities are not given to these persons with
But
disabilities.
I've watched the governor of Nasarawa State always align himself and even feeling proud that I'm a person with disability.
Yes.
As a governor. So what are we doing, particularly the national president? What are we doing as an association to see that we empower our members to get to places that they are supposed to be, just like people who are able are then there? What are we doing as an association
if you are not positioned to even come out,
nobody would even come to you.
Exactly. So how are you positioning yourselves as an association?
Well, we have been doing our best in terms of collaboration and even partnering with other development partners and even some civil societies to make sure issues of disability are given louder voice. The governor of Nasarawa State have become an ambassador of persons with disability.
Thumbs up to him.
We have been together with him. He has been participating actively on the activities of.
Greet him on our behalf.
We will do that. I was one time appointed in his cabinet during his former first tenure. He appointed me as one of the board member in one of the agency. See, actually, there are some development partners like the UNDP, the International Republican Institute Action Aid have been working seriously to make sure issues of disability have been given voice, have been accepted by even the government or policy makers. In fact, they have been working to make sure that this issue of disability bill have been seeing the light of the day, but unfortunately, there's no political will attached to that bill because no person with disability is part of the lawmaker. Nobody is there.
So how do they know your problems?
That is the issue. But we are grooming some of our members. Like the forthcoming general election, we have some of our members who are aspiring in one position or the other, which we believe some of them will be there. So as soon as they are there, we are very optimistic that maybe that bill will see the light of the day.
One more thing is, again, people with disability, isn't there some hate speeches that emanate from them to their co-colleagues or to the entire society?
No, like I earlier say, we normally have a joke within ourselves.
Oh, when it's between yourself,
exactly, we do, yes, exactly.
Okay,
It's limited to us.
Okay, it's a joke.
It's a joke, eh? It's a joke.
But if you joke with something that is serious, then I also take it as a joke, and I will continue to joke with it as well. So if I see somebody who is visually impaired or has deaf problem, referring to you as Gurubu, and you are laughing, I feel okay, you are okay by that. So if I am and I'm not physically challenged or disabled also, not with any disability, say Gurubu, you should also laugh because you just consider it as the same joke.
No, you see, hardly you see us joke within our meetings ground. We don't joke, so we don't, it's a very expensive joke. We don't do it outside the premises of...
It's expensive.
It's expensive, very expensive.
If it's expensive, well, you have the currency to pay for it.
Within ourselves?
Within yourself, you have the currency to pay for it, but I do not have the
No, you don't, you don't.
Okay.
You don't. You see, this issue of Gurugu Macau, I keep on wondering, it's more applicable in the north.
Yeah.
I have traveled to so many parts of the country.
Do you speak the language? You wouldn't know when they insult in their language.
No, they don't. They don't.
But you don't speak.
They don't. In fact, whenever we have an opportunity of meeting, maybe at national level, we bring out all these issues because it's a national issue. It's taking the interest of every one of us. So we discuss on all these things. In fact, the problems of persons with disability is more hectic in the north. To be very, I'm a northerner, but I just have to say the fact.
Do we have the percentage more in the north
than disability than in the other part?
No, I can't actually. There's no data regarding that. But one of the things.
So how do you have the data of telling us that you have 25 million people with 27 million? You say, how did you get the data?
We are working hand in hand with National Population Commission.
Oh, okay.
We've not been able to
differentiate between the north and the southern part.
Mr. Yusuf, in very clear terms, what message do you have for the public, and what message do you have for the government regarding hate speech and people with disability?
My advice to people is that we should learn more about persons with disability. We must come closer to them to be able to understand them. And if we're able to understand them, we'll be able to relate with them better. And the government should put in more enlightenment programs, organize workshops, and carry out campaigns that will enlighten the general public concerning issues of persons with disability. And I think institutions of higher learning have a role to play too in establishing programs for persons with disabilities, so that if they have these opportunities to go to school and they are able to get education, I think some of these challenges will reduce drastically. So these are some of the areas I think the government should look into, and the laws they make, especially that of disability bill, I think it should be passed into law so that we give it teeth to be able to bite and handle care programs of persons with disabilities.
Any addition from you, Madam Rilwan?
Well, actually, whenever I have such opportunity, I normally dwell on religious institution. There's need for religious leader because Nigerians are very religious. If you are either a Christian or Muslim, you definitely find yourself either in the church or mosque. By the time a pastor and imam speak about issue with disability,
just like me and you, right?
Exactly, it will carry more weight. But I don't think you have ever one day in your sermon say these are words of
How
God.
do you know
Once you did, I need to know it. I have a very open ear.
This is one of it we're doing.
No, what I'm saying.
This is a religious organization. I'm coming out with
I really understand. What I'm saying, let it be a task. We have Christian Association of Nigeria, JNI. Come out openly to say today's sermon in all our mosques should basically be on disability. Maybe all they can. We just celebrated International Day of Persons with Disability, which was declared by United Nations last week. Which means you don't have the interest of persons with disability. That is the issue. You understand me? So these are, I think, even before the law on ground, I think religious institutions have a lot to do on this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, thank you for being with us all this while. We've been talking about hate speech and persons with disability. For you to reach us, there's a number being scrolled on the screen. You can reach us through text messages with your pieces of advice and observations and even suggestions. We also have our Twitter handle, our Facebook account, the email address of this organization, and even the office address of this organization, Abuja. If you have any written something, you can bring it to the office. We'll be happy to receive you. Thank you for being there with us, and we will always come your way with other programs.
Finally, we'd like to thank and appreciate Mr. Rilwan Mohammed Abdullahi, the National Association of Persons with Disabilities, and a one-time big man with the governor. He was in the cabinet of the governor. I want to thank Mr. Yusuf Dekina, an instructor with the hearing impaired. And thank you so much for coming. Viewers, on behalf of Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, IDFP, please join us for this same program next week. Thank you very much, and God bless you.